In 2013, the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC, reached a series of agreements at its 19th meeting in Warsaw. These agreements, known as the Warsaw Framework for REDD+, reaffirmed that, as one of 4 requirements to access results-based payments, countries must provide a web link to a national strategy or action plan. The UN REDD program has helped to identify numerous important lessons. Drivers of deforestation and forest degradation go way beyond the forestry sector. A high-quality REDD+ national strategy or action plan needs to engage diverse key stakeholders and sectors. This requires a clear, ambitious stakeholder engagement and communications plan.
We are now developing the land use policy in Myanmar. We have the committee, which composed of the representatives from the relevant stakeholders such as CSO, NGO, and the representatives from the Line Ministry and the local communities and also the private sector.
In the case of Indonesia, the champion is the president, and the president created a task force consisting of a high-level officer from different ministry, and then we created that strategy together.
What was really important in the case of Brazil is to get high-level engagement from politicians that really cared about deforestation, and also to get the support from civil society, state governments, and as many people together as we possibly could.
The quality of both the design process as well as the strategy document are really critical.
In Mongolia, the power and interest of key actors and institutions was analyzed to identify ways to increase support to sustainable forest management through REDD+. In Malaysia, many actions relevant to REDD+ were already being implemented, so the process focused on what additional actions could be done.
It is important to show the linkages or the activities that are implemented by different sectors which can contribute towards achieving the objectives of the REDD+ program.
The best way to ensure synergies based on Ecuador's experience is by involving sectoral stakeholders and other actors at different government level on the design and formulation processes of policies and measures.
Using champions at the sub-national level is also important, deploying gradually to test and ensure quality. Strategies which outline how to reduce emissions and the institutional arrangements needed can take various forms. From a very short document providing the overall framework for sectoral and subnational action plans, to more detailed documents, keeping in mind that the strategy will need to be updated regularly. Brazil's national strategy will be a short document supplemented by sectoral and biome-based action plans. Malaysia's strategy is likely to be a longer sectoral document.
Oftentimes, it's this iterative process of identifying what the drivers are, what are those pressures on forests, and then thinking about how you might develop policies to respond to those. Looking back again at, are there new drivers as time has gone on?
It's important to think strategically about what can be done, how much it will cost, what are your resources to maintain what you're doing in the long run.
The most important lesson I've learned in doing REDD+ in my country is basically to do what I'm capable of doing at this point in time, with the aim to improve at appropriate times.
The government at the national level is in the driving seat.
Building the business case for REDD+ and links to the green economy is key.
How do you actually convince people who've never heard of REDD, who don't care about forests, that it's in their interests to support it? What's in it for them? What's the value added? What's the cost saved?
We have to present a very strong business case to our government and to other stakeholders if we want to get our NS or AP implemented.
Setting REDD+ into the National Development Framework is key. In Ecuador, REDD+ is based on the economic transformation of the productive matrix, while increasing forest value and linked to national development policies. In Indonesia, REDD+ was presented to other sectors as a vehicle to achieve national development priorities in the land sector. REDD+ can be presented as a catalyst to move to a greener economy. In Ecuador, REDD+ is grounded in the Constitution, the National Development Plan, and part of the climate change strategy.
The country vision for REDD+ should be supporting the national development objective of the country.
If it is taken as a separate entity from the mainstream development goal or agenda, it might not succeed.
Integrating REDD+ objectives into the various sectors' policies is another key. Analyzing direct and indirect drivers of deforestation and forest degradation is vital. Although indirect drivers are not always obvious, they are the most important to identify and tackle through adequate policies and measures. In Nepal, links between direct and indirect drivers and priority among them was identified through focus groups, fieldwork, discussions and workshops, and with a survey of forest workers and experts. In both Indonesia and Ecuador, perverse fiscal incentives that encouraged deforestation and forest degradation were identified. Consensus on main drivers and respective importance should be ensured through participatory processes. Analyzing and tackling indirect drivers is essential. Identify and try changing perverse incentives before adding new incentives. Understanding who is benefiting from current perverse incentives is important. Addressing drivers requires an appropriate package of policies and measures, mixing positive incentives, carrots, and regulatory measures, sticks. Brazil started with interventions like monitoring and enforcement, while preparing for more complex actions such as conditioning access to agricultural credit. The private sector reinforced public interventions with actions such as the soy moratorium on forest land cleared after 2006. The mix of carrots and sticks depends on national circumstances, analysis of direct and indirect drivers, understanding land use dynamics. Drivers of deforestation and forest degradation go way beyond the forestry sector. This requires engaging diverse stakeholders and sectors. Strategies which outline how to reduce emissions and the institutional arrangements needed can take various forms. Building the business case for REDD+ and links to the green economy is key. Analyzing direct and indirect drivers of deforestation and forest degradation is vital. Indirect drivers are essential to identify and tackle through adequate policies and measures. Addressing drivers requires an appropriate package of policies and measures, mixing positive incentives, carrots, and regulatory measures, sticks.